On June 27, 2005, 4 United States Navy SEALs were dropped into the unforgivable Hindu Kush mountains of Afghanistan. They were on a top-secret reconnaissance mission to track a high-value Taliban leader. Within hours, they would be ambushed by over 150 enemy fighters. Only one of them would ever make it out alive. His name was Marcus Luttrell. This is the true story of Operation Red Wings, the deadliest mission in U.S. Navy SEAL history, and the harrowing, gut-wrenching tale of the lone survivor.
Marcus Luttrell wasn't a Hollywood action hero. He was a humble, deeply religious Texan who grew up in the piney woods of East Texas. He learned how to hunt, shoot, and survive in the wilderness from his father, a tough-as-nails cowboy. Driven by an intense sense of duty, Marcus enlisted in the Navy. He fought his way through the brutal, infamous BUDS training, the crucible that turns ordinary sailors into warriors. He was determined to become one of the elite SEALs.
He made it. He became a SEAL and was assigned to SEAL Team 10. There, he was bonded to 3 of the finest warriors he ever met: Michael Murphy, Matthew Axelson, and Danny Dietz. They called themselves the Brotherhood. Mike Murphy was the commanding officer, a fearless leader who always led from the front. Axelson and Dietz were the fierce, steady shooters. They were brothers in every way that mattered. They trusted each other with their lives. On the night of June 27th, they inserted into the treacherous Shuryek Valley. Their mission was to locate and kill a notorious Taliban leader named Ahmad Shah. They moved silently through the steep, unforgiving terrain, hidden by the darkness. By dawn, they had reached their reconnaissance position high on a steep mountain ridge. The landscape was breathtaking: endless valleys, sheer drop-offs, and sweeping dry dust. But the breathless beauty was a predator's paradise.
But their cover was blown in an instant. A group of local goat herders stumbled directly into their position. The SEALs had a critical decision to make: kill the unarmed herders and compromise their honor, or release them and risk their mission. Bound by the strict rules of engagement, Murphy made the fateful call. They let the herders go. Within hours, the herders had reached the nearest Taliban village. The SEALs were betrayed. Over 100 enemy fighters began to surround their position.
The ambush was devastating. Suddenly, the peaceful mountains erupted into a hellscape of gunfire. Rocket-propelled grenades screamed down the slopes, and a relentless hail of AK-47 bullets tore through the air. The SEALs were completely outnumbered. The SEALs were pinned down on a sheer slope. The enemy was above them, firing down from dominant positions. The intense fire was relentless. For hours, they fought back with incredible precision. But the enemy just kept coming.
As the firefight raged, the casualties mounted.
Dietz was shot and went down. Axelson was wounded but kept fighting. Marcus took shrapnel to his leg and a bullet to his chest, miraculously stopped by his heavy tactical plate. Despite the unimaginable pain, Marcus kept pulling the trigger, laying down suppressing fire so his brothers could reposition. Every second was a war against the clock, the heat, and the terrifying onslaught of enemy fire.
Realizing they had no chance of survival, without backup, Lieutenant Murphy took a life-threatening risk. He stepped completely out of cover, into the open, exposing himself to heavy crossfire so he could get a clear satellite phone signal. My position is under attack, Murphy said calmly into the phone. He was hit by enemy fire mid-sentence. He collapsed, shot in the back. But he made the call. The Quick Reaction Force was on its way. A CH-47 Chinook helicopter packed with 16 men, 8 Navy SEALs, and 8 Army Night Stalkers rushed to their rescue. They flew low and fast through the jagged mountain passes, desperately trying to reach their trapped brothers. But as the helicopter attempted to insert the rescue team onto the tight, dangerous slope, an RPG launched from the mountain hit the Chinook's tail rotor. The massive aircraft instantly spun out of control and crashed hard into the valley. All 16 men aboard the Chinook were killed instantly. The helicopter explosion rocked the mountains. Rescue was now impossible. The 4 men on the ridge were completely alone, and the QRF they were waiting for had just been obliterated. Dietz and Axelson made their final stand on the cliff. They fought with a ferocious, desperate rage, firing their weapons dry and drawing their sidearms. Outnumbered and outmatched, they fell on that mountain slope. Their bodies never recovered until the next day.
Marcus was struck by a massive RPG blast. The explosion picked him up and threw him completely off the cliff face. He tumbled and crashed for hundreds of feet down the steep, jagged ravine, blacking out as he hit the rocks below. When he woke up, the battlefield was eerily silent. The gunfire had stopped. He looked up the cliff, but couldn't see his brothers. He was alone, lying in a dark gully, bleeding, with his back broken and his ribs shattered. The pain was unimaginable. His back was cracked, his legs were shredded, and he could barely breathe. But deep inside him, a voice screamed, "You will not die in this ravine. You will walk out." He began to crawl. He crawled for hours through the scorching heat. He found a small, muddy puddle of stagnant water and drank it, risking infection just to survive. He hallucinated conversations with God and with his fallen brothers, begging for strength. He traveled over 7 miles across the punishing terrain. Every breath was a dagger in his ribs. He hid in the bushes because he could hear the Taliban hunting him. The enemy was still searching for him, wanting to finish what they started. Exhausted and on the verge of death, Marcus stumbled upon a small, remote Pashtun village. It was a death sentence to enter, as the village was deep in Taliban territory. But he had no choice. He collapsed in the village courtyard. The local village elder, a man named Muhammad Gulab, found him. Under the ancient, unbreakable Pashtun tribal law of Pashtunwali, Gulab was required to offer shelter and protection to any refugee. He brought Marcus into his home. Gulab provided water, food, and medical aid. He gave Marcus a clean white towel to bandage his wounds. Marcus knew that if the Taliban found him here, Gulab and his entire family would be executed. Yet, Gulab did not turn him away.
Word spread quickly. The Taliban arrived at the village, demanding that Gulab hand over the American soldier. They threatened to kill every man, woman, and child in the village. Gulab stood his ground, refusing to surrender his guest. For hours, the standoff continued. The Taliban threatened, shouted, and fired their weapons into the air. But they did not attack. the village's fierce defiance, rooted in centuries-old tradition, forced them to back down. They left.
Knowing the Taliban would return, Marcus knew he had to call for extraction. He used his satellite phone to contact the Bagram Air Base. He gave them his position. But he also warned them, they will kill you if you come in slow. The military organized an emergency rescue mission. A heavy MH-47 Chinook helicopter, escorted by 2 Apache gunships, raced toward the village. They flew low and fast, knowing they were flying straight into a potential trap.
The helicopters landed in the village courtyard, kicking up massive clouds of dust. A team of Navy SEALs and Air Force pararescuemen rushed out. They found Marcus barely clinging to life, propped up against a mud wall. They loaded him onto a stretcher and raced him into the helicopter. As the Chinook lifted off, Marcus looked down at the small village. Gulab stood in the courtyard, watching him go. He had saved his life. An Afghan man had saved an American SEAL.
Marcus was rushed to a military hospital in Germany. He was a broken wreck. He had a shattered back, multiple shrapnel wounds, and a severe concussion. But he was alive. He was the sole survivor of the deadliest SEAL operation in history. When he returned to the United States, Marcus was hailed as a hero. But inside, he was crushed by an unbearable, soul-crushing weight. Survivor's guilt. He couldn't stop thinking about his 3 brothers who didn't make it out of those mountains.
To cope with the trauma, Marcus did what he always did. He wrote. He poured every excruciating detail of the mission, the ambush, and his survival onto paper. His goal was to ensure the world never forgot the sacrifice of his brothers. In 2007, he published his autobiography, Lone Survivor. It became an instant #1 New York Times bestseller. The raw honesty and breathtaking detail of his story captivated millions, honoring the memory of Murphy, Axelson, and Dietz.
The book was later turned into a major Hollywood film. Marcus walked the red carpets, but he never forgot his roots. He remains a passionate advocate for veterans, and he keeps his brother's dog tags with him every single day. Marcus Luttrell survived the impossible, but he never sees himself as a hero. He believes the real heroes are the men who gave their lives that day, and the village elder who risked his family to save him. Today, we remember the brotherhood. Always.